television for a good 3 years. I didn't know anything going on. No going to this guy's party, friends parties, social. I wasn't social for about 3 years. I just got one really good station and I just worked my ass. That was one thing. That 3 years, I feel like put me ahead of everybody for 10 years.
So you have created your own monopoly in the market.
Well, I think it's the two most important things. When people say brand nowadays, everybody wants to build a brand, right? I'm still going. I didn't stop. I've never stopped. I don't have any intentions to stop because I have a dog in me. You know what I mean? I just have that drive in me. It's not anything about money. It's not about cars. This has been my thing. Like, I want to be done that. I do not want to be doing what these girls are doing. 5 years old. You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. This is not the life I want to live.
Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Welcome back to the show. I am thrilled to have Ayaz bhai back in the show because of the journey he had. So मैं चाहता था कि मैं उनसे ज़्यादा बात करूं ताकि हम लोग उनकी जर्नी से सीखें. बिकॉज 10 साल के अंदर इतना बड़ा गैस स्टेशन का नेटवर्क बिल्ड करना, रियल स्टेट मार्केट के अंदर आप उसको उसके अंदर डाइव करना, प्लस एक अपना ब्रांड बिल्ड करना स्क्रैच से, और कंपेटिटर इतना कंपेटिटिव मार्केट के अंदर उस ब्रांड को लॉन्च करना, और लॉन्च ही ना करना, उसको प्रॉपर तरीके से इस्टेब्लिश करना. तो मैं चाहता था मैं उनसे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा बात करूं कि बीइंग अ पाकिस्तानी गाय, अ यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर, इतनी ज़्यादा चीज़ें एट अ टाइम करना और सब के अंदर ही उसके अंदर उन चीज़ों को उसके मैक्सिमम पे लेके जाना. तो मैं चाहता था कि हम उनसे बात करें ब्रांड्स के बारे में, बिल्ड कैसे किए जाते हैं, इसको इस्टेब्लिश कैसे किया जाता है. फिर एक जब आप डाइवर्स फील्ड्स के अंदर होते हो तो आप उसको उसके साथ कैसे कोप अप कैसे करते हो, क्योंकि मार्केट में इनोवेशंस हैं और आप आजकल जिस तरह एआई है, एआई के दौर के अंदर आपको इंफॉर्मेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, तो वो कोप अप कैसे करते हैं इंफॉर्मेशन के साथ सारी चीज़ों को लेके. तो मैं इसलिए चाहता था, इसलिए उन्हें जहमत दी कि वो दोबारा आएँ ताकि हम उनकी जर्नी से सीखें, और प्लस ऐसे नाम, ऐसे चेहरे आगे लेके आएँ जिन्होंने इतना इतना ज़बरदस्त काम किया. और स्पेशली द ब्यूटी ऑफ हिज जर्नी इज़ इट्स जस्ट अ स्पैन ऑफ 10 years. The things he has achieved with his scarce resources, it has been a beautiful journey. तो मैं चाहता था मैं उनसे बात करूं. अयाज भाई, कैसे हैं आप?
Thank you, Nakash. Thank you very much. Very good, yaar. I'm very good. And
Thank you
very
so
nice to
much,
see you
Ayaz
again.
bhai. You coming from Albany all the way for this, it's an honor.
No problem. Pleasure's mine.
अयाज भाई, स्टार्ट ही आज इधर से करेंगे क्योंकि काफ़ी हम बातें पहले भी की हुई हैं. मैं आज सबसे पहले आपसे यहाँ से स्टार्ट करूँगा कि बिल्डिंग अ ब्रांड, like launching a brand is some one thing, right?
जी.
Establishing a brand is something else, especially a Pakistani guy or working in a very competitive industry. As we know that gas market is a competitive industry,
Yes.
and establishing 30 brands, running 30 gas stations, making real estate impact, plus making your own Yazzy's market. The hoodie, I'm waiting for that. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this too.
No problem. No problem. Made in Pakistan.
Made in Pakistan. How did you do this?
Um. So as long of a question that was, the answer is even longer.
Yeah.
Right?
हमारे पास
So,
खुल के time है यार.
first of all, thank God, we got to this position, and it's been a journey, that's for sure. But building a brand is, I'm actually learning as I go, but getting to that point wasn't easy. So, as you said, I started 10 years ago with one gas station. My father had gas stations before for about 20 years, I would say 20, 25 years, but he was never into it. He's actually a veterinarian doctor, right? So he was one of those guys that would have one station just to pay his expenses here in the U.S., and he would go back to Pakistan all the time. So I was born there, and I lived with my grandparents on my mom's side for about 7 years in Lahore. So I was really, my upbringing was in Lahore, Pakistan. So that's why I have half Pakistani, half American. I'm more about. I would say, if I had to say, I would say about 75% I'm American, but I have a good 25% in
Yeah,
me,
I can see
culture
that.
wise, I would say. So I think that's what differentiates me from other people, I would say. And the bottom line is, I started from one. My dad's station burned down. We started to work. We had to work. I came home one day. I seen tears on my father's eyes the first time in my life. He's not a type of guy that was ever emotional or anything like that. And that's when my life changed. I then that day I knew that why is my dad crying? And I was 18, 19 years old. And in our culture, as you know, the oldest son has a lot of responsibilities.
That's true.
So again, going back to that point, I'm from that culture, so I knew that. So I had to go with my dad, and my dad was sick at the time as well. So it was a very difficult time. But one thing led to another. He had a lot of connections in the business. So after about 6 months, I worked for somebody. First job of my life. I worked at a gas station. I remember the guy actually said to me the first day, he was like, "Oh, you don't know how to make coffee? What have you been training for?" The funny thing is, 6 years later, I bought that guy's gas station.
Yeah.
So that's another story we'll go to get into one day. But he remembers it real well. I remember it real well. But I think I'll remember that for the rest of my life because I bought that station just to, just to
Just
let
what-
him know that, this is the same guy. I'm here, and what are we going to do about it? So that's how we got there. But now, to answer your question, but we just started establishing this brand like 2, 3 years ago now. Me and my brother. So my brother's with me, Ali, and he's a big help to me. So he runs I would say about 10 locations on one side of Albany. And so we're building a brand. We call it Yazzy's Markets. And the reason to come up with the name, so my real name is Ayaz Yousaf, right? And my nickname, my grandmother used to call me Yazy. Okay, so that's where that name came from. Everybody called me Yazy. My chachu, my uncle, everybody. My dad's family's huge in Goja in Faisalabad. So we used to go there for vacations and stuff with my mom. She used to take me there. So everybody Yazy, 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 Yazy. So then when we came here, at home I was called Yazy, but outside I was called Ayaz as a young kid, right? So, but then little by little, you know how Americans give you nicknames, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
know.
then everybody started calling me Yaz, and then it became Yazy. And then a couple of years ago, there's a big chain up in my area called Stewart Shops.
Uh-huh.
So I looked and I said, a big company that I buy from, all my cigarettes and all my store stuff and slushies and drinks. NCD is actually based out of Long Island. They told me that you got to build a brand. I mean, you have this many sites, you're growing this fast. I mean, if you build a brand, that not everybody should look at you as Youssef. Everybody should look at you as Yazzy's Market. He actually wanted to call it Fresh Yazzy's Market. I didn't like that. So when I built the brand, I'm really into design. I design like my own stores. I design the signs. Like I'll sit with my sign guy and design the sign exactly. So I'm really into that. So that brand, I built it, and the reason why I built it is not because it's my name, is because I wanted to make it easy for everybody, like Americans, Africans, Indians, Pakistanis, everybody to say Yazzi's. Not, I didn't want it to be like Ali's Food Mart, not because of my brother. That came out the wrong way, but like if we say just Food Mart, then people in their head they think it's just gonna be some raggedy old gas
Yeah.
station with dirty bathrooms. The guys inside, no uniform, things like that. I can't stand. So I have a problem. You can say mentally that I have a little sickness where I can't stand dirtiness. I can't stand things not being where they're supposed to be. People call it OCD here, right?
Yeah.
I call it craziness, but at the end of the day, so that's how I used to run my stations. That's how I grew. I just did it the right way, little by little, with the big help of God. And I just started buying everything in the area. I knew the area was booming. I knew whatever I can buy, get my hands on. I overpaid for sites. Guys came to me and told me, "Oh my God, why would you buy this site? Nobody made it here in the last 7 years." I told them, "Well, I'm gonna make it here in 5 years, and or 5 years, you're gonna see me in a year." And I did it. I proved it so many times. I bought a station for a couple 100,000. I sold it for, let's say, 700, 800 in the span of 2 years because the business just got so much better. Same location, but people just don't have, they're penny wise, dollar stupid. There's a lot of people that are penny wise, dollar stupid, right? And what I mean by that is a lot of, like, 95% of the people in this industry, especially, they'll look at the cost of replacing a sign is $100, okay? But they won't look at that $100 is going to image your store, right? that $100 is, I mean, whatever, 100, it's going to be, say, 1,000 because you got 10 windows or whatever. But if you make it all look the same at location one, location two, location three, location four, then you start becoming a brand.
True that.
Right? That's the only way to become a brand is you have to know when you walk in this studio, Nakash is going to be here and the guest is going to be here. Okay? That's a part of your brand, the Nakash show,
True that.
right? So that's what I would say on that is building a brand is all about learning, but it's all about staying consistent from what I've seen.
Asbi, I have a lot of questions, so I'll just now. I am sorry to cut you, but I have a lot of questions, so I want to make this puzzle solve for other people. First question: did you have any sort of background related to this, like education wise? Did you study anything about brands? Because
Not about brands. No, I just did my business administration. That's
because
it.
the question I asked was most of the people like us, we think that if we don't have any sort of education related to a particular field, we won't be able to do a lot of great things in that particular field. So that is why I asked if you.
Okay.
So you, as I knew that you don't have that sort of experience, like you didn't study that thing.
No marketing, no design, interior design, out, whatever it is. That came within when I was learning the business. I would follow big brands like Mobile and Sunoco and Sitco's of the world and all that, and I would look to see what colors they used. Then I would use those colors inside my buildings when I was building them. You know what I mean? To make it look like when you walk inside, it looks like a Sitco. It looks like a Mobile. Not you got Mobile outside and green walls because a Mobile is blue, right? I mean, it's every kind
Okay.
of little things like that. That's what made me kind of curious about that. So you can say I kind of had an eye for it, but I also had a big passion for it.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful part because like most of us we think that if we don't have any sort of formal education in a particular field, we mix it going to the university because if we want to learn something, we have a lot of books, we have a lot of like you learn from different brands, your competitors. So that's the most beautiful part. We don't need to have a lot of formal education for that. Anyone who wants it, who's passionate enough about something, learning something, he can do it.
That 100%, and that's with any field. Not, I mean, how many people do you know that are outside of their field doing excellent, thriving? How many people think about it? So many people in different fields nowadays. You know what I mean? And that goes to the back. You got to do what you're passionate about. That's the bottom line.
Ayazbi, I'll come back to the beginning of your journey. It was back in 2015, I guess, when you were working in a
Yeah,
gas station, right?
yeah.
So it's been almost 9-10 years
A
that.
little longer than that. I think it's been like four. It's been over 10, about
So
14.
let's just say it's about 12-14 years, but still the number doesn't match in a way that in just 12-14 years the amount of businesses, it's not amount of money I am talking about, it's the amount of businesses, the portfolio you have right now in just 10 for 12 years and being
Yeah, it's
a
been
very
about 10 years, I remember.
a
Because
very
it's 2024 and
especially being a very
10
young
years.
guy building this portfolio, what was the you would say what was the most important thing you did which other people didn't do and which made you this sort of a brand?
Um, so the first thing that comes to mind is I worked my ass off. I don't know if that was okay for the camera, but I worked my tail off. I was in tunnel vision for a good 3 years. I didn't know anything going on. No going to this guy's party, friends parties, social. I wasn't social for about 3 years. I just got one really good station and I just worked my ass off on it. That was one thing. That 3 years, I feel like put me ahead of everybody for 10 years because the stuff I learned in that 3 years, I grew a lot in those 3 years, but I also worked. I didn't stop. I was growing at a rapid speed, but I didn't stop working. Like I would have 4 or 5 stations, but then I would go do the night shift. You know what I mean? So that's what really put me past everything. And it kind of kept me humble, I would say, because I never really counted, Nakash. I don't know how many gas stations I have to this day. I don't know. I never counted. The reason why I never counted, my dad told me one time, I'm very close with my dad. And if you watched before the podcast, we talked about that a little bit. And so my dad told me one time, Pagla, ਜਦੋਂ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਦੇਗਾ ਨਾ ते फिर गिनती बंद हो जानी. मतलब in
mean,
English, the day you start counting businesses and your achievements, you start patting yourself on the back. I'm this, I'm that. That's the day you're basically finished. The day you can't learn anymore, the day you can't grow. If we're at this ceiling, we can't go any higher. It's a big problem. So I never counted. And to this day, I don't know because there's some in the pipeline. I've bought a couple, some are under contract. One I'm building right now from scratch. That's going to open any day now. I bought another one. There's a guy that built one across the street from us. I just bought it out from him. I overpaid him, but I wanted to kill the competition. I've done that a lot where I'm in certain areas where I've got 6 stations on one road, 5 stations on one road. So I get to kind of control my market, right? So that's kind of been a little bit of a secret for the growth of success too, is controlling the market. That's been a big thing. I've never really run into any problems competition wise. I would always buy them out.
so you have created your own monopoly in the market.
I wouldn't say monopoly because we are on record, right? But I don't think monopoly. But we've created a strong presence in the capital region, Albany area, which is which people don't know is actually the capital of New York.
That's
And this show is all about New York and New York City, and it's great. New York City is its own animal, but the capital, all the decisions are made up in Albany, right? And we're pretty big up there. So
the reason I asked the question was because most of the people, when you are established, they just see that you are established person. Now they do not see the struggle you have done right for the past 10 years. Like
yeah,
you said, you
yeah,
have
yeah.
missed a lot of things. You don't go to those friends parties maybe, and you were having those gas stations and you were doing your night shifts. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty
Yeah,
of
not
this.
overnight shifts, but I'm saying I would do a full shift. I'm not gonna go off and be like, oh, I was doing overnights when I have 5 stations. No, I wasn't. I was doing like, I would work all day. I would get up at 6 o'clock. I would do my rounds at each station, make sure the orders are all done, blah, blah, blah. And then I would go relieve the guy at 2 o'clock and work until night for a good 3, 4 years. I did that. And I really didn't need to. I could have went home and relaxed and got up in the morning and just done my thing. Like what I see these young kids doing nowadays is just kind of they're half in. Everybody seems like they're half in, but they want full out. What I mean by that is that everybody wants the whole world, but there's always an excuse for something. Oh, the market is down. Oh, this is down, but they're only working until 1 o'clock. Back in my day, I mean, if you wanted to hustle, the whole word of hustling is getting to the place you want to be at. Doesn't matter how you get there. That's what it's called, hustling, right?
True. Like the thing we were discussing off record was like, if we work harder, like we work in a week, most of the people they are working 40 hours a week. So
Yeah.
if I work 100 hours a week, obviously I am 2.5 times ahead of those people, right?
Yeah.
Even we don't have investment, so we have that leverage of time over others, right?
Yes.
So coming back to one more very important thing, what would you say about consistency in discipline, and how does it help you to build your brand?
Well, I think it's the two most important things: consistency. So when people say brand nowadays, everybody wants to build a brand, right? And the first thing you think about a brand is everything's got to be the right way, right? Like when you look at Gucci, everything is that green, blue, and yellow, or whatever their colors are, right? So being a brand is being consistent. That's what you call being consistent, right? And to be that consistent, you got to have discipline. So they work hand in hand, and if you can't have one without the other, if you're disciplined, you're going to be consistent, right? So that's I think they work very behind building a brand or building anything. You got to be consistent, and you got to be
Okay, so what's the future of Yaz's market? Like, what you guys are up to, what you want to do, what sort of impact you want to create in the market? If I ask.
So, I mean, this whole thing has been gotten a little blown up unexpectedly, I would say. I never went into business thinking that it would ever be this level. Thank God for that. Shukr alhamdulillah. But now we're just going rolling. Have you heard about when they say rolling with the punches? We're just
Yeah.
kind of rolling with the punches. If we see a deal that make sense to us numbers wise. If you invest 2 million, you put another 2.5 or a million into it, it's 3.5, right? Easy math. And then if you're making, I'm not going to get into too much about numbers. Everybody has their own return ROIs, right? Return on your investments,
Yeah.
business wise. So if you get to a certain number that okay, there's 3.5 million, I'm going to get this much back. If that number makes sense for you, we go ahead and do it. If that number doesn't make sense for you, we go ahead and pass. That's where we're at now because we're more not concentrated on making more like say 40 stations, 50 stations. There's no number. But now it's about building a brand, keeping it consistent, running what we have in order. And if that, what I mean by that is controlling your house first. That's the stage we're at now. Again, I'm 33 years old. I mean, I've got normally a long ways to go here. You know what I mean? So now it's kind of like build a brand, focus on good, high quality service, high quality gas stations, locations. Don't take any bullshit locations. That kind of thing now.
Asbi,
So we're consistently buying.
I have a very important question. Most of the people, because like I am thinking as a beginner, the questions we have as a beginners, and you are the perfect person to ask these questions. So when we start something, we most of the people they say that they don't want to get into the market which is very saturated, which is very competitive. And I know the retail industry you are in, it's already very competitive. And coming into that market, making a name, building a brand is obviously tough. Plus, you came with your brand, and it's so tough in this retail market, and
Yeah.
especially these days. So, how to cope up with that competition? How to create a name in that much of a competition? How do you do that?
Nakash, I don't think if you're, strictly talking about my business, to come into the gas station business, you're saying somebody new would come into the gas station business. How do they build a brand like this?
Yeah.
First of all, it's going to take you 10 years.
Most
Okay?
important
That's
part.
the first part. I mean, first of all, you're going to have to find a market where there's an opportunity, right? Because don't take this the wrong way and it's not personal at all, but I'm not going to let a Nakash come up in my market. I know every single gas station that's for sale. First, that call comes to me, usually. You want to buy it? Okay. Sometimes I overpay for stuff so nobody comes in the market. Right?
Okay.
That's the whole point of that.
But
So the first thing is you got to find a market and you got to be dedicated. It's going to take 10 years, not 10 months.
But I am cutting you because a very important thing.
Sure.
Once you were that guy in the market in which people were shutting you down
Yeah.
because they had a lot of leverage because of the money, because of the gas station.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
I would say I would say they were penny wise, dollar stupid. Okay, there was a bunch of uncles back then, and they don't like spending money up there. They didn't before, and they kind of let me in. I kind of snuck in the back door, and I just did my thing. I started rebuilding these things and making a new way of running gas stations up there, and I started overpowering them. They would go to sites. There would be times where we're all bidding on a site, and they'd say, "No, the rent is too high there." But I took the risk because I know I'm going to run a way better shop than them, so I can afford that. They can't. So then they slipped up, basically. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, a lot of them are my colleagues. A lot of them are my friends. I'm so good friends with a lot of Sardars in our family, like in our community, because as you know, if you go to any gas station nowadays, usually bago pa na yan, bandene. So they're Indian Sardar, very hardworking guys. I think it's the best business for them. As a community, I think because it just fits everything that they do in their culture. You know what I mean? So that's why I think they're having the success that they are.
And Asbi, one very important thing which I believe it's obviously so what leverage I guess you have others is people are actually hard workers, but nowadays it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart too, right?
Of course, it is.
People do not accept technologies, people are not spending money because obviously you have to spend money on marketing. I know you have bunch of people doing that thing, and that gives you a leverage over other people, right?
Of course, and that's what back to my point. Back then, when I kind of got in and bought some of these stations, I fit into the market. Is they're like I was saying, there's older guys kind of in that market, had stations for a while, get guys my dad's age, they're halfway out kind of, and they weren't willing to spend some money and market and do whatever that, and I was, and I got to build my brand. And there's guys up there that have more stations than me. There's guys that are bigger than me, but they have a lot more money than me. They have a lot more everything than me, but nobody knows them. Nobody knows them because they've never established one brand. So they all know it as A, B, C, D, E, not A, right? So, and that's something that I was ahead of the field on, and I'm trying to just focus on that now.
So, as we say that we do not put all the eggs in one basket, I know you have a portfolio of your businesses.
Yes, that's
So,
important.
and it's also diverse. You have, I know you have gas stations. Now you are into the real estate market. The thing
Yeah,
we were discussing back that day. You also, I know you have motels. Also, you are
yeah,
into
yeah,
that industry also.
yeah.
So,
Hotel industry.
when you are in different industries, how do you do that? How do you actually diverse your portfolio? It's for the people.
For the people. So to diverse as a businessman, you get to a stage in life when you got to start looking at yourself as a third party, like as a businessman. Like I look at like my finances, my business, like me as a person. I look at it as like, okay, as a businessman, this is where he is in life right now. You have to start diversifying, which I started doing 2 3 years ago, which means not all your eggs in one basket type thing, right? So I there was an opportunity came up for a motel up in Lake George. I'm sure that everybody's heard of Lake George. It's a very famous lake. I think it's actually the first lake from New York City all the way upstate. That's actually a natural lake. That's why we have more Jersey cars there than we do New York, because everybody from this whole area comes up there for the weekends.
I
So
get it.
anyway, I had an opportunity. It was like a 25, 26 room hotel, and the guy was selling the real estate up there, and I was getting into real estate at the time, and the real estate numbers just work, Nakash. At the end of the day, I don't know anything about motel. I still don't really. I have a manager that runs it. I mean, I do what I do as a businessman. Like I know things got to be shiny. I got the place cleaned up. I got the parking lot done. I got new. I did what I could do, and what is that? Is put my business sense into it, and I put money into the damn thing. I fed it like a pig, and then thank God it produced, because it was in a hot spot. I mean, I was in a really, really good location, and thank God it's doing well, and it's winterized now, and it's just it's become really, really good for me to diversify myself. There's a lot of things I learned about that business that are very tough. I don't know if I would do it again, but the deal I got made sense. The return on my investment made a lot of sense. And the real estate just keeps going up in Lake George. I mean, it's just unbelievable. People buying houses up there for $7 8 million.
Yeah, the question was because actually I know people want to diverse their portfolios, but actually they don't know how to do this, right? So they have money, they want to do a lot of things, but they were not able to do those sort of things. So people want to do it. So I just wanted to do the mindset. Plus, how do you stay focused? Because like if you're into four different industries, and obviously it's not just as we spoke earlier that it's not about just entering into a market, it's about establishing a market, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So going in different four industries, how do you cope up with that focus thing? How do you stay focused so you can maximize the profit in all those four industries? How do you do that?
Well, Nakash, I'm not a machine, right? But I think I'm the closest thing a human being is to a machine. And what I mean by that is I'm my head, my heart, my hands are they run around that phone. It never stops. And I try to answer everybody the best I possibly can, and I try to pay attention to everything I possibly can. And that's how I stay up with it. I do it every single day. I don't take days off. I'm consistently working, and I don't look at it as work because I could be at the gym, or I'm not a big, obviously, gym guy. Like I'm not a big bodybuilder or anything, but I like to go to the gym. Shoot some hoops. I was a basketball player back in the day, you could say, and get in in the steam room and this and that, right? So that's that.
So when we talk about business, most of the we want to have that drive. What I have felt that we, as a young person, people lack that drive kind of thing. Like uh, they want to work hard, but it's not in there. Like uh, i- uh, you know what I'm so
I know what you're trying to
what I'm
say,
trying to say is that you want to have that drive to pursue some sort of thing.
right?
What do you say that how that drive comes into you?
So I'm gonna make this really sweet and short. So I don't call it drive. I call it, do you have a dog in you? You have to have a dog in you that consistently barks. Okay, there's no drive. This is not a car. Your life is not a car where you put the damn thing in drive and it's just gonna drive. Does that make sense? You got to have a dog in you.
that,
You
that
have to have that
that's a funny way
firepower.
to put it,
You
but
have
I
to have
loved
to
it.
have firepower in
I
you.
loved
And
it.
and I can't explain to you the drive. Some people have it, some people don't. Some people have it for other things. Some people have it for some people don't have it for certain things. Okay, some people like, they like cars and they have that drive, but when it comes to going to work, they don't have that drive. So is a drive there? Yes, but it's different from everybody else. Everybody, it's different.
And Asbi, one more important thing that how do you stay that because it every business demands innovation, right? And especially in your industry, obviously it has a lot of innovation. Plus AI is already there, so you
Yes.
need to have that innovative mindset. Plus maintaining those four different industries, and how do you be stay like how do you stay innovative in all those industries? How do you do that?
I'm I'm actually working on that as we speak. I'm trying to get into the whole social media networking and stuff like that, building the brand because we're just getting there, right? I mean, we haven't been established that long to the point where I've got it nailed down 100% yet. So I'm not going to say I have. I'm getting there. I'm trying to learn from you. I'm trying to learn from anybody I possibly can. And the journey's just starting. That's the funny thing about everything is that, people ask me all the time, how did you get here? How did you get here? And I say, what do you mean? How did I get where? I'm still going. I didn't stop. I've never stopped. I don't have any intentions to stop because I have a dog in me. You know what I mean? I just have that drive in me. It's not anything about money. It's not about cars. Shukr, alhamdulillah, I have everything, Nakash, in the world. Yar. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I can't say it enough. Um, I'm that type of person, bro, where you can't shop for me for my birthday, and it's gotten to that point where you can't. There's like Yazby probably already has it. So imagine for my sisters, I've learned that from my sisters that they're like, you're the hardest person to shop. You have everything, and I thank God for that. But my point is not to say that I have everything. Again, alhamdulillah, I have everything: cars, houses, whatever. But I still have that drive, and the drive is because I just love to do business, and I just love making deals, and if it's just what keeps me going. That's the bottom line. That's why I
That's
enjoy it
good.
so much.
And so obviously you were struggling in back in those days.
Oh yeah.
Obviously you have seen that tough time because like now we are speaking a lot of about brands, about success. So the most important part of success is, I guess, failure. Like you would have a lot of times when you failed in many things, right? Any particular points which you can say about your failures and how did you manage with those setbacks you had in your life?
Um. So to be honest with you, I don't look at anything as a failure because I've always looked at things as a learning curve. Like if I failed, I always just pivoted. And pivot, that means like, you're going this way and you make a right because you pivoted. So I seen things coming. So I had my father, which I think was a big advantage to me. And I want to give credit to my father because it's not just all about me, but and my whole family has been with me throughout everything tremendously. They've always done what they could at their position in life, and they still are. And I really very appreciative to them. But my father, what I learned from him was not what not to do. Okay, so normally you hear your father, "Oh, I learned everything from my dad to not to do this." So my dad never took business really serious. Not to say that he's one of the best people in the world. If you ever anybody asks about him, or if you ever heard, I'm sure you've heard about him.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
uncle has told you about him,
yeah.
Dr. Saleem, the nicest person in the world. But he didn't have any interest in business. He- for him, he was a veterinary doctor. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ, in
जी
Pakistan, as a doctor, you're like a big thing. He had to
yeah
come here, pump gas. तो ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਜੋ dog ਅੰਦਰ ਸੀ ਨਾ, it
वो
was
खत्म
dead.
हो गया it was
So that's the problem he had. So then all the stuff he faced, challenges in life he faced, he always warned me about them. So I think that was a big plus point for me. And for me, it was a good thing. Thank God I listened to him. Because a lot of people, when you get this, you got 10 stations, you're 25 years old, you start getting egos and this and that, right? But they don't start listening. That's the problem. They stop listening. They think they know everything. The ego gets in your way. So one thing I was lucky for, I'll say, is that I listen. I still do to this day. I talked to my dad before I came here. Whatever he says, I always have it in the back of my head. Now it's a different thing that there was times in our business life where my dad would tell me, no, don't do this deal, because he had that same mindset. Like I was telling you about these guys that let me in to their market, penny wise, dollar stupid type thing where this doesn't seem like a great deal. Nobody's ever made it. But I went against his decision. That's when I became a man, is when I started just, okay, Dad, I appreciate your opinion, but I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to show you exactly what it's going to do. And there's been so many situations where I bought stations, and my dad and my brother, he's a little younger, so he's 25, very smart kid, very hardworking kid, and I love him to death. But there's times where there's things that I see that they don't see. And for example, there was a big ShopRite chain up in our area, right? There's a ShopRite here. They have gas stations as well in certain areas. In the Albany areas, they sold them. And everybody was bidding on them in the world, everybody that's in Albany, because they were great stations, because they're usually right in the middle of a parking lot, or they're in a busy road. So I bid on them, and I got them, and my dad and my brother so I always give my brother a chance to be a partner in each site. That's his right as a brother. Okay. There's no like, I buy something and I bought something and blah, blah, blah. No, I buy something, it goes to him. You want in? He says yes or no. That's another subject, right? If he's in, he's in. He's not, no problem. We both help each other. We do our thing and we move on. In this case, he and my dad were like, no, the rent is way too much. It's way too much. And I was like, yeah, you guys are nuts. You see this corner? Are you kidding me? What Albany's about to turn into, this and that. Anyways, my brother said no in that particular situation, and he'll tell you, it's on camera, and he can vouch to that. Hopefully, he'll admit it. And they told me, this happened about 4 or 5 times before this as well. Told me, no, that's, you go ahead. You're crazy, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Got it, branded it, did what I do, put my guys there. We have a full 10-day training system. It's kind of like an army system we run. We make them go through some stuff that you don't normally go through at a gas station job, just to kind of test them out, to see what they're about, what their character is about. So after you go through that 10 days, then you can come on board. So then we put them in a team, right? And basically I treat them like family then. But to get in the door, you got to have certain no red flags type thing, right? So anyways, long story short is I bought that location. It's doing phenomenal now. And my brother came to me at a month in. He's like, I want to get in. And my dad was like, damn, geez, how the hell is this happening? I told you guys exactly what it's going to do, when it's going to do it, how long it's going to take. I laid out the map for you. And they were like, So this has happened about 5-6 times, not just once. But that was the most recent when we bought the ShopRites. We bought them all out up there.
So, in this very particular thing we discussed, so normally, obviously, it was risky to them, right? And
Yes.
it wasn't risky to you at all. You were saying you had a different perspective about that thing, and they obviously had some different perspective. So, how do you weigh your pros and cons of a business?
I would say my experience, right? I would also say my risk taking skills, or I don't know what you want to say, stupidity skills, whatever you want to call it. I like to take risks because I know that in life and in business, you can't, if you don't risk anything, you're not going to win anything, right? And, that's a bottom line here, is that you have to risk something to see really what's going to happen. So I've done it many times before that. So then I analyze the location. Okay, now I'm not going to give all my secret tools to
I get
everybody, but I analyze the location very, very thoroughly myself. Okay, I'll go there and I'll see what the area's about. Blah 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 blah, and then I'll take the risk or I won't take the risk. But there's 90% of the time I'm taking the risk.
So what I have seen is that you follow your gut instinct, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So most of the people, many people, sometimes in their lives, especially when their parents against them, or maybe they have a different perspective,
Yeah.
and I want to do something other than what my parents says, we get scared of that situation, right? When because you believe in your parents, and sometimes your father is your inspiration in the business. So but your gut instinct says something different, so you have to obviously go against those people, like you went against your father and your brother.
Yeah.
Not against, like, you had different
I
approach.
made a different decision and I put my foot down and
So
actually made the decision.
so
A lot of people think it.
so the question
Yeah.
I was having is that a lot of people, they get into the similar situation, right?
Of course,
So
everybody does.
they have their different gut instinct, and people are like they have different approach. So what will you say about those situations, particularly when people have their gut instinct? Should they follow it? Because for you it worked. For many people, there might be a case that it won't work. So what do you think about gut instinct?
Well, it's a tricky question, and I can't really answer that fully because again, you gotta nobody knows yourself or your situation more than you do, right? So, gut instinct is also risk taking, right? So some people are risk takers, some people aren't. Some people have something to lose, some people don't, right? So that's a big part of it, right? Sometimes you want to go with your gut, but you financially can't, right? So it's very hard to answer that properly. But mostly, I would say in business, if in business, you normally follow your gut instinct because if you're going to follow your gut, that means you are believing
In
in
yourself.
yourself, right? So that's why I follow my gut. I mean, I've always done that, but I've never thought like, yeah, this is my gut instinct, so this is what I'm going to do. I did it because that's a decision I had to make at that time. That's a decision I think that is appropriate at that time, and I'm going to follow it. Even if it was a wrong decision sometimes, you got to follow through because you're going to learn from that. Why was it wrong? How else
True.
how do you learn?
Very important.
That's very important is even if you made a mistake, go through with it and then get out when you can, obviously. I'm not saying go through it at Galipa, I'm not
Exactly.
saying go to jail and just stay in jail, but why did you go? Why did you get in trouble? Why was it a bad mistake? Why was it a wrong decision? The deal wasn't right. That's why. There's been a lot of times, the only times I've had a problem is that when I didn't make the deal right. I jumped the gun a little bit too much. Again, like there's times where I've taken risks and they've backfired on me. I'm not going to tell you I'm 30-0. I'm not, I've there's been situations where I lost money on, but I learned from them.
That's the most beautiful part, that when you follow your gut instinct, what it gives you, like the thing you said, is you get a very good experience out of it. And probably the next deal you are going to make is because you had your lessons, right?
Yeah.
When you do not, so when you self doubt yourself, obviously you need to have confidence when you are in the business, because you have to make deals spontaneously. You are somewhere, you don't have to rely on your parents or brothers every time, because you're somewhere, you have a deal, you have to make quick decision, right? So when you follow your gut instincts, in a way, I guess it gives you a great experience. Even the deal wasn't right, so you
Yeah.
learned something out of it.
That's how I look at it, Nakash. Even basically, bottom line, or in short, is you just learn from your mistakes. The bottom line, just keep your mind open. It's not just all about learning. Sometimes it's making mistakes. You know what I mean? If you don't make the mistake, how are you going to know? If it doesn't rain, how is it going to shine?
That was beautiful. That was
Right?
smooth. Yeah.
Well, that's what I believe in, Nakash. It's not something that I had to pull out of my pocket. That's my true belief in life. That's how it is. It's just second nature. It's do or die, man. You know what I mean? It's a do or die lifestyle I live, and there's no dying. It's not an option. There is no plan B. The plan B is to make plan A work. You see that in movies all the time, but that's how my life has been.
So Yasmi, if I ask you, where do you see yourself after maybe 5, 10, 15 years? I don't know. Where do you see yourself?
um, I've never really looked at it that way, Nakash, but I see myself up in Albany, with my family, growing as a businessman, and then if I look 10 years out, can see myself going back to Pakistan and settling down there for like 4 or 5 months out of the year and coming here. Because by then we'll see how my brother is going to take this. We'll see how he learns and we'll see what happens because I'm 33. So I've got like 5, 6 years to really decide what I'm going to do for the second part of my life. My whole goal was, Nakash, everybody's thought I was crazy. Still does. People think I'm crazy. I want to retire by 40, man. I'm done. As in, like, I'm not making any more acquisitions and things like that after 40. Whatever I have at 40, that's it. Wrap up. That's it. Because I just always want, as a kid, it's just been my thing. Like, I'm going to be done at 40. I do not want to be doing what these uncles are doing at 55 years old. You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. This is not the life I want to live. So I had to put my foot down. And I still do. I mean, I'm 33. Like I said, I got another 7 years. Whatever I'm going to do in the 7 years is what I'm going to do in 7 years. After 40, I see myself traveling the world, having multiple houses everywhere, right? I love cars, okay? I love getting up in the morning and making my own coffee and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I like to do. I want to change my phone number. I got 7 years on that damn phone number, right? And I just want to kind of get lost in the life a little bit for a couple of years.
And
For a couple of years.
Would you mind sharing your car collection right now? The cars you have?
I have a large collection of cars. You want me to list them?
Yeah, if you want.
So
why
I've got
not?
a S580 Mercedes Benz, and then I've got a Mercedes Benz GTS 63 with the GT car. I've got a Mercedes GLE 450 AMG or 350 AMG, whatever it is. That car I bought just the other day, and my dad took it one day, and he said, "I love this car." So I said, "Go ahead and take it." So I just swapped cars with him for my everyday. You know what I mean? Because that was like to work and this and that. So then the Mercedes are out of the way. So then I've got Lexuses. I'm a big Lexus fan. I've got the LC 500. It's a convertible. So every car's got its own purpose too. Okay, so one is a convertible, one is a long drive one is this and that. So LC 500. That's amazing car. If anybody doesn't know about the LC 500, they need to YouTube LC 500. Amazing car. Can't say enough about it. Then I've got a GSF, a very rare Lexus. They don't make them anymore. Stopped in 2020. And I've got a Jeep Grand Cherokee and LX 600. I mean, it's just on and on. Too many cars. Too many cars.
Any dream car? Any like?
Nah, man. No, that's the thing. Like, I don't have any.
You don't dream it. You just get it.
Well, I mean, I don't have like a Lamborghini Huracan or things like that. Yeah, I would say those are my dream cars, but I can get them. It's no problem. It's just a space right now is a big problem for me. I don't know what to do. I don't know which car to get rid of right now. I have to swap something out, and I will this spring. I will. I have to do something.
So, what is success for you, and how it has evolved over time?
That's the question. Can you repeat?
What is success for you? How do you define success and how it has evolved over time?
So that is a question. So success, I think, is many different things. And I think everybody should have a separate answer to it because a lot of people, if you're talking just society-wise, when you say, "Oh, you're successful," this is success. You see posters, rise, grind, dents, and then success, right? So the society has made success into you have a lot of money. Let's just be very simple. You have money, or you're doing great. Let's say you're married. You got this car collection and this and that. Blah blah blah. From the outside, anybody that looks at my life would be like, "Wow, what a successful guy," right? And I'm not saying I'm not successful, thank God. But success for me today, sitting here November 1st, is, again, is my parents' health, my health, my family's health, building our brand. That is what success to me is right now at this current moment. I'm not looking at money, cars, this, that. That's not success. My success is to keeping my dad alive, keeping him healthy, keeping him talking, keeping him, going through this life, and yet to see his smiling face another day, all the time, to fight life, because he's having some problems with the lungs and asthma and things like that. As you get older, things like that happen. So, which has changed for me in the last year or two, because my father was always healthy and we never thought about it like that. But we've had a couple scares where it kind of changes your angle at things. It's definitely changed mine. So success for me right now is making sure everybody around me is healthy, happy, and I don't have a scare in my life.
And second part of it, because I know that it must have evolved over time, that when you were 20 in your 20s, it would have been different to you, I guess.
It
I'm not
was.
sure.
It was
So
completely
how
different.
it has evolved over
It
time.
was completely different when I first started. The only thing, just like the society thing again, I thought success was having this many gas stations and this much money, this many cars, this many houses, this many clothes, designer stuff. I thought that was success, right? Once I've got all that, right,
Mm.
now it's like, now what? Right? What am I gonna do? Come here and buy another Gucci shirt? I'm gonna buy another Prada. This blah blah blah. I've when you get to that point, then what is success for you, right? I mean, once you're there, then what? Life doesn't stop. So that's the reason why I said my success before, what I thought was success, was getting all this stuff. Once I had it, I realized it's not success. It's just materialistic things that just come with having money.
True.
Right? Even if you don't like certain things, you buy them when you're in society. If you buy them just to show your neighbor, oh, you got this or you got that. That's where your ego falls into it. And everybody has an ego. Not I'm not saying people don't have egos, or I'm not saying I don't. Everybody has an ego. Some are bigger, some are larger, some are smaller. That's all. But it's very important to control that ego. So, and that's if you're like doing well in life, everything's good, alhamdulillah, everything's all good. Controlling your success is a big thing, right?
Managing that
Yeah,
part.
managing that part. You don't want to get too overconfident.
True.
So, just always say shukr alhamdulillah, thank God about everything, and just
And
move forward.
Asbi, any message for the viewers, for the young generation, if you would like to say something?
In what content? So, I mean,
In a general perspective, like, people are actually hearing you, they will get motivated by the success you had, by the journey you had.
yeah.
So anything you want to share about your journey, or any message you want to give the viewers, like, to motivate them, or maybe.
Yeah, I mean, wha- what I would say to the general public, if, again, success is something different, and being good in business is something different. And I would say, if you have to choose what you like in life, that's what I would say first, and pick that path, and follow that path the best you possibly can every single day. So, and if that's business, you work your butt off. That's the only way to grow a business. Okay. If it's your family, you spend as much time as you possibly can with your family, right? So just do your best in everything that you're doing, and don't start making excuses, because I hear excuses a lot now, Nakash. With this new generation, I feel like everything is an excuse. It's always, yeah, but this. Yeah, but this. Yeah, but I'm in the city. But I'm this. But I'm this. But I'm up there. This guy didn't do this. This guy. It's always an excuse, and you're blaming somebody else. That's one thing I would say. Stop blaming people. Get to work. Do it the old school way. We're going into a time where uh, we're going, as a country, we're going through an economic disaster, right? And things are about to turn around, because I believe Trump's going to come back. And we don't want to get too political, but Trump, for the business people out there,
Yeah.
will know that everybody, even though you don't like Trump, but now the last 4 years, you've seen what's going on business wise. Everybody's like Trump, Trump, Trump. Business
Yeah.
people.
True that.
So I believe he's going to be back if he can keep his mouth shut for a little while. If we can just put some duct tape on there for a little while, and he just says, "Hey, my economy will be the strongest economy like it was 4 years ago." I think he'll win. But the problem is we got 4 or 5 days still left of him tweeting and talking. So I hope he doesn't screw it up for himself. But once he comes back, I think, things are going to turn around. And the younger people, what I would say to them to end it off is that you got to go with the wind. You know what I mean? You can't just blame people for this. You got to go out there and get it if you really want it. That's the bottom line. That's what I would say. And if I can do it, why can't you? Why can't anybody else?
Yeah, that is what I have learned through this podcast, that if whatever you dream, whatever you work for, if you work hard, obviously you are going to achieve it. So I guess we need to have that right mindset, and very importantly, we need to have that consistency. We need to have that discipline to achieve anything we want, whatever the field is. It doesn't matter. If we want to achieve something, we have to be very consistent. We have to work hard. We have to be very disciplined. So this is what my take was out of this podcast. So inshallah, I'll keep bothering Ayaz by to come here and talk more about business, in which we can help our community, desi community, Pakistani community, so they can grow together. I know that he's working very closely with Pakistani people. He loves to work with Pakistan. Even this hoodie, it is made in Pakistan, and because he wanted to support our community. So in the upcoming podcast, I would love to talk with him about the Pakistani youth, how he can help them to become better persons, or maybe what he can contribute towards our economy. So inshallah, I'll keep bothering him. I'll keep bringing him here, and inshallah, next podcast we'll do in Urdu or Punjabi, so we can have more conversation, and we can target Pakistani audience. Once again, thank you so much, Ayaz bhai, for coming.
My
It
pleasure,
was
man.
lovely
Thank you.
having you.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching. And please, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And whatever questions you have, please do comment. And we would love to answer your question. Thank you so much for watching, guys.